Hello and welcome to another segment of DSU Inside Perspective. I'm Carlos Holmes, and this is the show where we talk with faculty, staff, students, alumni, and guests about some of the things that are going on in the world or some of the great things that are going on at Delaware State University. Today we have Dr. Akwasi Osei, who is the chair of our History, Political Science, and Philosophy Department here at Delaware State University, and we need to talk about ISIS today.
Wonderful. I'm pleased to be here.
I'm so glad to have you here. And let's provide some information and some clarity on this situation, because I just still have this feeling people do not understand who this organization is and what it is they want. The first thing I want to start off, and this is November 20th. This comes on the heels of the Paris attack, where over 100 people were killed. Hundreds more were injured in an attack that was claimed by ISIS. A lot of the perpetrators of that murderous act have been caught and killed. Some of them are under arrest. But we've noticed a phenomenon happening here now. We have countries, France, US, even Russia, that are talking about how to deal with ISIS, which raises the question to me, my goodness, are we headed towards World War III? What do you think about that question?
Okay, let me update you on the number of countries that are still involved and have been hit. This morning, November 20th, 2015, this morning, a group of terrorists took 150 people, thereabouts, hostage in Mali. Now, France is in Mali. France has tussled with ISIS in Mali. So there are some of us who believe that that is a direct relation, it has a direct relationship with what happened last Friday.
But as Mali, I'm a little short on today's. I've heard it bits and pieces today in my busy schedule. I have not had a chance to focus on that totally. But has ISIS claimed responsibility?
As of the time that I walked in here, no. But all the signs point to ISIS or ISIS affiliated groups in that part of the world, because they have had issues with France before.
So it continues. It continues.
It continues,
and
it will continue.
So you have Western countries that are getting their heads together, trying to get their heads collectively wrapped around what to do about ISIS. Are we headed towards World War III?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, in the sense that we are already in a war with people who believe that we have done them injuries, including groups such as Al-Qaeda and now ISIS, and therefore they've declared war on the United States. We've been at war with them since 2003. We have. Remember, we've been bombing ISIS for a year. Why would we bomb them if we're not at war with them? So I think that's what I said. Yes, we're at war. I'm not sure this is World War III, but we're at war with ISIS.
You're chair of the History and Political Science and Philosophy Department, so let's stop a minute on a term, okay? What is, whether we talk about World War I, World War II, World War III, or subsequent to that, what is a war? What qualifies as a world war?
A world war would be a conflict in which the majority of the world's powers, especially our superpowers, are involved on opposite sides. And that would include most of the world, just like in World War I and in World War II. Both wars did not, they happen all over the world in separate ways. So in that sense, we're not at war. But we've been in a war with folks who have declared war on us because they believe that we have essentially desecrated their religion. And these are the Osama bin Ladens in Al-Qaeda, these are the Al-Nusra Front in Syria, and this is ISIS now in Iraq and Syria. The difference between those that I mentioned and ISIS is simple. ISIS now has taken territory from parts of Syria and Iraq. Osama bin Laden as smart as he thought he was, didn't control any territory. As you remember, he was living in caves. ISIS controls real territory in Iraq and Syria, and that makes them different. It makes it a totally different a level of engagement. And now, as we see, with some of their allies, and they have allies all around the world. In Africa, they're allied with Boko Haram in Nigeria. They're aligned with Al-Shabaab in Somalia. Officially, both groups, Al-Shabaab in Somalia and Boko Haram in Nigeria, have pledged allegiance to the ISIS caliphate that they have declared in Syria and Iraq. In that sense, in those places and in those two nations, Iraq and Syria, we're bombing both of them, and so we're at war with ISIS. Now, ISIS, most people don't know exactly who ISIS is, and did they just pop out of nowhere? Clearly, the answer is no. ISIS stands on others' shoulders. In this particular case, ISIS stands on the shoulders of a former group affiliated with Al-Qaeda called Al-Qaeda in Iraq, that we, the United States, battled. If folks will remember the name Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, he was the first person in Iraq who subjected our people to the head cuttings, you know, the beheadings. If you remember in the middle of the 2000s, well, we finally tracked him down and killed him. His group, aligned with some of Saddam Hussein's group, is what we're now seeing as ISIS. And ISIS essentially means the Islamic State.
So it was born out of Al-Qaeda.
It was born out of Al-Qaeda in Iraq.
But now Al-Qaeda still exists.
Yes.
But they're not bosom buddies anymore.
No, they're not. Okay. But they both have the same objective, to do harm to the United States, period.
Let me ask this question, okay? That was one thing I wanted to deal with, because I think people get confused between Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State. And clearly the Islamic State is its own entity.
Yes.
I would further say that it is an Islamic entity. And we hear a lot of discussion about that. We hear a lot of political correctness when discussing this, okay? Even our president, President Barack Obama, he has stated that this is not Islam as it's practiced by most Muslims. Okay, but this is an Islamic group, is it not?
Yes, it is. And by the way, if I recall correctly, President Obama, what he said was, we are not at war with Islam.
He said that too.
We are not at war with Islam. We are at war with people who are Islamic, but have a different version. They have a much more radical view of what Islam should be and be practiced. That's who we are at war with. And for them, there's no other religion but that.
You know, I think people are very concerned about this because, one, when we talk Islam, they don't understand the religion. So it's something that they're, for the most part, most people
That's
here in
true.
the state, if they're involved with a religion, it's involved with Christianity or Judaism. Yes, we have Muslims here, but the number of people that actually understand Islam is very small.
Very small.
So they're dealing with something. When we say this is an Islamic group, they don't understand it.
But it's not the fault of Islam that we don't understand.
No, it's
You know what I'm
not.
saying?
Oh, it's not.
We have had people of the Islamic faith in these United States from the beginning of America's life. So, but albeit very small. It's a small segment. But Islam is arguably the second biggest religion in the world.
This is true.
Next to Christianity.
Along with this is a belief that scares people, and people are starting to come to grips with this, is that we're dealing with an ideology in which the people that are practicing it, they're not afraid to die. In fact, they welcome it as long as what they're doing, you know, fulfills the purposes, or the Islamic purposes as they see it. So they're not afraid to die. How do you deal with something like that?
let me just make a correction. They're not afraid to die not because they are Islamic, but because they are wedded to their cause of what they think Islam should be, radical Islam. There's a distinction. Now, do you believe there are people out there who are Christians who will be prepared to sacrifice for Christianity and God? Yes, I do.
Yeah, sure.
So in that sense, it's not because they're Islamic that they're prepared to die for Islam. They're prepared to die for their particular version of Islam that they want to impose.
Paradise.
Remember, they've killed a lot of Islamic people. Most of the people they kill are Islamic in the places where they're operating, in Syria and Iraq. So I want to make that distinction. But yes, part of the problem is that you're dealing with people who believe in what they're doing to the extent that if it means dying for it, they'll sacrifice themselves. That makes it difficult. It makes it what they call the asymmetrical war, meaning that it is not your grandfather's or your father's war as we've known it.
As we know, World War II.
World War II or World War III, which is why I wouldn't say we're in World War III. We're in a whole different dispensation, and we need to be able to understand that. It is both a hot war, as in we're bombing them, and they've killed some of us. It's an ideological war. It is a religious war from their perspective, not from our perspective, because we're not bombing them because they're Islamic. But they're fighting and doing what they're doing because they believe that's what Islam calls for them to do. You see, so it's a different type of war. We need to be prepared on all kinds of levels to face that.
Well, I want to invite you back. Let's see what unfolds here in the coming weeks, and I would like to talk with you. So this is part one.
Yeah.
This is part one of this discussion, because I'm sure it's not going to end
It's
today.
not over yet.
No.
And I'll be happy to come back.
But thank you for being on the show today. You're always welcome here.
Okay, thank you.
And we thank you for joining us for another episode of DSU Inside Perspective. Y'all have a good day.